everybody. I'm Larry Stoney, and I am here at the WizardCon 2001 edition, and I am sitting next to Dave Prowse. And as many of you know, that is Darth Vader, ladies and gentlemen. I've got him sitting right here with me, and I'm very happy to be here. How are you today?
Well, I'm very happy to be here as well, actually, because I've had a sort of bad spell, illness-wise, over the last 6 months, and I'm, hopefully on the road to recovery. So it's lovely to be back in Chicago. I love coming to Chicago. This is I think it's my fourth or fifth visit, to Chicago. It's lovely.
Well, we're glad that you're feeling better, and we're glad that you're here with us today, and you're looking actually kind of prime there and ready to take on some people that are rude or anything. Well,
we don't get many of those, actually. We don't get many rude people. Usually the fans are fantastic. They're most appreciative, and they're all like they come out there and they're in awe and wonder, like they're actually meeting Darth Vader for the first time. It's wonderful.
Well, actually, have you ever had a moment like that where you got to meet someone that you've always wanted to meet, and you were kind of like awestruck?
Yeah, well, not awestruck, but I've had it happen twice, actually. Once I always wanted to. I started bodybuilding years ago, and my idol was a guy called Steve Reeves, who became the Mr. Universe, and he went into all the Italian Hercules films and things like this. And I always wanted to see the guy and meet him. And eventually, I was asked if I would do an autograph signing session in New Jersey, and with Steve Reeves as the co-signer with me. We were the two top of the bill guys, And I thought, oh, this is wonderful, So eventually, as I said, I met him, and we did this signing together, and he was wonderful, absolutely wonderful. And then just recently, I just happened to be in the airport lounge in London, waiting to come over to America, and who should walk in but John Voight. Who I love. I love his work. I mean, really do. I mean, The Champ and the Midnight Cowboy and all those sort of movies. And I went up. I just went straight up to him and introduced myself. And he'd been doing some filming in London and was on his way back to Los Angeles. And we sat down and we had half an hour to ourselves in the first class lounge in London Airport.
Well, that's great. Now, you mentioned that you were a bodybuilder before. How did you get into bodybuilding in the first place?
I started because I was registered as a crippled child, actually. I had a long spell in hospital when I was 13. Well, from the time I was 13 to 14, nearly a year in hospital, with suspected tuberculosis of the knee. And they eventually said that there was nothing wrong. There had been nothing wrong with me. It was just I was suffering from a sort of what I call growing pains. And I was in a leg iron for several years, a leg brace which went from my groin down to my ankles. I was walking everywhere with a stiff leg. And eventually they said, well, throw away your leg iron and start doing some exercises. And almost like the first thing I did was bought one of these bodybuilding magazines, and everything snowballed from there. And then from the age of 15, all I ever wanted to be was Mr. Universe. That was the big thing in my life,
And did you ever achieve that goal?
It took me 9 years, but 9 years later I got invited to enter the Mr. Universe contest, which was, a major honor, as it were, because it meant you were basically in the top 20 physiques in the country at the time, and it was good. I enjoyed it, and I enjoyed the competition. Then I changed over after that, and because I thought, well, I really needed to be a lot bigger than I was. I was 6'7", and when you weighed nearly about 200, at that time I weighed about 260 pounds, and I was nowhere near big enough, not for my height, and I wasn't as proportionate enough as the smaller guys. And so I thought, well, I'll change over. I was getting quite strong at the time, so I changed over to competitive weightlifting, became the British heavyweight weightlifting champion. Which I had.
Wow!
Yeah.
3 years.
I had 3 years. 62, 63, 64, and then I didn't get selected to go to Tokyo for the Olympic Games, and that was a major letdown. And so I turned professional then, and I formed an act. I used to call myself Britain's Strongest Man, and I used to go around giving exhibitions of strength with Arnold Schwarzenegger doing all the bodybuilding exhibitions at the time. And then one day I just happened to go call into a stunt agency in London. And they said, look, if ever there was any work in show business, would you be interested? And I said, well, I've never acted before in my life, and they said, well, we'll cross that hurdle when we come to it. And then within 2 weeks, I was on stage at the Mermaid Theatre, which was in one of the major West End London stages, and doing a play called Don't Let Summer Come.
Well, how long did that play last?
Oh, that was only about 6 weeks, I think, either 3 or 6 weeks. But that was my intro, and then that got me into the Actors Union, which is a big thing. Right. From never having acted before in my life, I became sort of Dave Prowse actor, as it were, and then my agent then started sending me out for television commercials, and then from TV commercials to TV series, and then from TV series into films. And the first film I did was 1967 Casino Royale. Yeah, James Bond.
The James Bond one. Yeah. Well, now, you also worked with Hammer Horror for a while.
That came in 1970. I got offered a part in a film called The Horror of Frankenstein, which was written, produced, and directed by Jimmy Sangster, and I did that one, and then I became the Hammer Monster, as it were, and then I followed that with a film called Vampire Circus in 1972, and in 1973 I did Frankenstein and the Monster from Hell, which was the first time I worked with Peter Cushing, which was nice.
So was Peter Cushing a really nice person, or?
Wonderful. One of the nicest people you can ever wish to meet. He was one of these. If you ever ask anybody in the business, who are your favourite people, who are your favourite actors that you work with, Peter Cushing always comes out top of the list. Roger Moore comes a very close second. Yeah.
Well, who would you like to work with that you haven't worked with yet?
Sean Connery, because Sean Connery very much the same sort of intro as I did into the film business, and as much that he was a bodybuilder up in Edinburgh, and his job was he was a coffin polisher of all things, and he came down to London to try and get into show business, and did it via he got into the stage musicals. And it was a time when you had things. We had all these big American productions coming over, South Pacific and Kismet and things like this. And the American dancers were sort of big, butch, beefy people, but they were only allowed to work in London for so many weeks, and then they had to be replaced by an English cast. That was the union regulations now. Right. And the trouble was when they tried to replace them with the English people, all the English guys were little gay guys and all slim and not very butch and beefy. Right. So they hit on the idea of going around to all the gymnasiums to see if there was any butch, beefy guys that were interested in doing sort of chorus work in the musicals, and that's where they found Sean Connery, and that's how he started.
Well, now of course we're going to have to hit upon Star Wars. That's what here for. I'm sorry, go ahead.
I haven't spoken about was Clockwork Orange, which came in 1971. I did the Hammer film Horror of Frankenstein, and then the following year we did Kubrick's Clockwork Orange, and that was the film which really established me as an actor. Well, and then from there, Lucas remembered me for 4 years.
I apologize. Actually, that was in my notes about Clockwork Orange, and I did want to ask you about that. Considering the long-range effect of the movie, people remember it to this day as being a very vibrant, very, I want to say, kind of almost artsy film.
Now, which film are you talking about?
Clockwork Orange. Yeah. Especially the ending. Did you read, when you first were approached for the role, did you read the entire script and go, this is something I wanted to be in? Or?
No, I never. I was just invited up to Stanley's house to meet him, and not auditioned as such, but we just went up and had a chat, and I only had one line, I think, in the production or something like this, and I think basically he admired me because I was an athlete. I didn't think of me as an actor, and I think that's one of the reasons why I had such a good relationship with him. Because everybody you talk to who's worked with Stanley Kubrick rings, he was a right bastard to work with, And but with me, he was absolutely wonderful, and he would ask me to sit by the side of the camera and talk to him while he was working, or while they were waiting to line up shots and things like this, and talk about what was on television the night before, or to talk about my athletic career and my weightlifting and bodybuilding and things like this. He was wonderful.
Wow. Sounds like a great honor, actually.
Yeah.
Now, like I said, now we're going to move on to the Star Wars thing, and did you know at the time that you were filming that this was going to be something that was going to be so huge, a phenomenon, really? Yeah. Did you even have an inkling?
No, not in the slightest. We got a copy of the script. I didn't get a copy of the script on the second or the third one, i.e. episodes 5 and 6. But I got a copy of Star Wars. I read through the script, so I basically knew what the thing was about. But you were filming, and you never filmed in sequence, and you filmed according to whichever sets were ready, right. Whichever sets and whichever studio was ready. And so you might do scenes where they were completely out of sequence, and the other big problem on Star Wars was nothing ever seemed to be ready. It was like they were having terrible problems with this camera that they brought over from America. That was a special camera that they wanted to use, and they were out there, and they could never get the damn thing to work, And then a lot of the stuff was the blue screen was experimental at the time, and he would say, we'll stand in front of the blue screen and imagine the planet Dantooine blowing up, And of course, it's all right for Darth Vader. I could be laughing my head off under the mask, but everybody was there trying to show us dismay and all this sort of business. It was very, very. as I said, very, very experimental all the way through, and I was on it for 5 months, and to be honest, I was dying to get away from it. At the end, I'd had long enough on it, and I wanted to get away. I was being offered all sorts of work at the time, and the major work being, I was asked if I wanted to become the figurehead of the British government's road safety campaign for children, which was a job I did for the next 14 years. So which was the best job I've ever had in my life. Yeah.
What kind of job? Speaking of the job, what does that entail?
Well, it started off with me doing 3 television commercials a year for the campaign, which were just really advising children on how to cross the roads properly, how to get across the roads. And then they turned around to me and they said, well, how would you like the job of going around to the schools and doing a show, doing a sort of 3/4 of an hour long show, based on the road safety campaign, on the road safety code. And that's what I did. For 14 years, I went all over the world doing it. I went to something like 700 different cities throughout the world. I went to over 2,000 schools. I met over 500,000 children, and the net result was in England alone, we actually reduced the road accident figures in Great Britain by over half. They went down from over 40,000 a year to less than 20,000 a year. And then, after my efforts, to reward, not as a reward, but last year, I was awarded an MBE by the Queen in the Queen's Honours List. Yeah.
Member of the British Empire, correct?
The British Empire, or member of the Order of the British Empire. Yeah.
One of the happiest, one of the most proud days of your life.
Very rewarding. Yeah, very nice. Very, very, very interesting going to Buckingham Palace and meeting the Queen and things like this. Yeah.
Terrific honor. Now you've also been working with. It's your own charity. Well, go ahead and give us the name of that.
Well, I developed arthritis about 10 years ago, and I had a weightlifting accident, and then it mucked my hip up. And since then, my body's been on a downhill slide, as it were. I've had 3 hip operations. I've had 3 hip replacement operations. I've had 5 hip dislocations. I've had 1 ankle fusion. And now at the moment I've just got over a bad spell where I suddenly developed an abscess on the spine, which is poisoning my blood system, which is paralysing my various joints. So, but fortunately, as I said, I think I'm getting over that.
On the mend.
On the mend, yeah. Well, I wouldn't be here unless I was, if I wasn't on the mend. And I feel well in myself. I'm not walking very well, but I feel well in myself. And I'm waiting to go back into hospital to have another hip operation because one of my legs is too long. But anyway, when all this arthritis trouble started, I first of all tried to find out as much as I possibly could as far as self-help, as it was concerned, and what if there was any pills or potions or drugs or anything that you could take, or anything you could do in the way of exercise or any sort of alternative therapies that you could do.
Right.
And I experimented a lot with all sorts of different things, and then eventually I met up with some people from the Institute of Orthopedics, which was a big hospital in Great Britain that specialises in arthritis research, and they said that the only thing that they recommended was cod liver oil. That was the only thing, was the only non-medical thing that they suggested arthritics take was cod liver oil. And then I approached the cod liver oil people and asked them if they would like to get involved in a sort of charity arrangement, and that's what we did. I formed this charity called Dave Prowse's Force Against Arthritis, and over the course of the years, I've raised thousands, for the charity. The idea originally was to build a new arthritis research centre at the Institute of Orthopedics in England, and we raised 2.75 million. Not me. I'm not saying me. I mean, this is the charity. The charity appeal itself raised the 2.75 million, and we built the new centre. And now all the monies that I collect all go for actual research, which is nice. I mean, people write to me from all over the world for photographs or autographs, and I either write back to them and say, well, look, I'm sorry, but or if they send me money for photographs, that money all goes to the charity, or I write back to them. If they don't send me any money, I don't sign any of their stuff, and I write back and I say, if you're interested in an autograph or a photograph, I will be only too pleased to supply you, but you have to pay for it, and the money goes to the charity, and they write back and send me money. So it's a great way of raising funds, for the arthritis calls.
Well, it's a heck of a thing. I mean, as long as I think people are more giving when they know it's going for a really good cause.
Yeah.
I just got signaled that we're going to have to wrap up soon, but I did want to say thank you very much for the interview. But you have a website of your own where people can write to you for autographs and what have you.
In America, it's www.daveprowse.com. But there's all sorts of things happening at the moment. Like two major things. One is I've written a book, and it's with a New York literary agent at the present moment. And that's going to be good. It's called Straight from the Force's Mouth, and I hope it's going to be out next May, to coincide with the launch of the new Star Wars movie.
Are you going to be on the book tour for that?
Oh yes, definitely, yeah. And then also, I've had a French television company get in touch with me. They want to do a 52-minute documentary all about my life in times, as it were. And they want to follow me around and come to the conventions with me and do come on cruise liners when I'm doing talks on cruise liners and things like this. And so that we hope will also come out roughly about the same time. So we keep our fingers crossed.
Well, that's great. Let's keep it crossed.
Yeah.
I hope everything goes well for you. I hope you feel better. I'm glad that you were here for us. But ladies and gentlemen, again, www.daveprowse.com, and then Straight from the Force's Mouth coming out in May of next year, hopefully.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you, Mr. Prowse. We appreciate your time.
Enjoyed it.
And hope you have a good day. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll be back.
I once had a friend who met an early end to a kind of modern way of thinking. He wasn't taken from us, yeah, he's still among us, but he lived for drugs and drinking.